Hello everyone, my name is Aarti and you're watching HW News. Today's video is about the Pegasus software being used to target several journalists, activists, politicians and bureaucrats across the globe, but this is also about the idea of liberty, privacy and relations between the state and the individual. It is not that we are hearing about Pegasus for the first time. In 2019, we had heard about it, that some persons were targeted through Pegasus spyware and that allows remote hacking of an individual's device. Activists from India were also being snooped upon using this spyware. This is what we knew then. What we know now is probably the extent of the spying using this spyware. In light of the new revelations, it becomes all the more important that we talk about the concept of surveillance state and what kind of future are we looking at. Before we move forward, a request to all of you. If you want us to continue talking about the issues that matter, please do support us. Those who want to make a one-time contribution to us, you can do so by going to our website, that is www.hwnews.in. Click on the support, select the pack that you want to take up and pay us. When you pay, you empower us to speak truth to power. Now coming back to the topic. French media non-profit Forbidden Stories and Amnesty International accessed a large pool of database. And this database includes close to 50,000 phone numbers of several individuals across the globe, including journalists, politicians, activists, etc. These people feature in the database of target of Pegasus spyware. The database was then shared with 16 news organizations across the world, including The Wire, which is India-based website, The Guardian, Washington Post, etc., etc. According to a report published in The Wire, as many as 300 Indians were on the target list for snooping between 2017 and 2019. Now, mind you, 2019 was the year India went for a Lok Sabha election. These include over 40 journalists, 3 major opposition figures, 1 constitutional authority, 2 serving ministers in the Narendra Modi cabinet, current and former heads and officials of the security organizations, and scores of business persons. So these were on the list of targets who were being snooped upon by Pegasus software. Now, the report says the database of those who are likely to be the target of the Pegasus spyware attack also contain a number of sitting Supreme Court judge. Whether he was using the number to operate WhatsApp or other encrypted messaging services at the point of time could not be verified. However, while the leaked database confirms that these numbers were added to the snooping list, it is not yet verified whether each and every number was targeted for hacking. Having said that, the forensic inspection of a cross-section of phones drawn from this list by Amnesty International's technical lab has indeed confirmed the presence of Pegasus spyware in as many as 37 instruments, 10 of which are in India. The Israeli company which has made this spyware says that it only offers its spyware to vetted governments. That means private companies don't have access to the spyware. In that case, if Indian citizens are being snooped upon with the use of this spyware, questions are being raised on the role of the government in it. On its part, the government has refused the allegation. Responding to the report, the Ministry of Electronics and the Information Technology has said that the allegations regarding the government surveillance on specific people has no concrete basis or truth associated with it. However, it did not specifically deny that Pegasus is being used by the government. It is important to note that government says that surveillance is not carried out without the proper approval of competent authority. The question thus is, why can't the government in clear terms say that we are not using the spyware? Why does it have to be vaguely worded and ambiguous? Why isn't the government saying that it will probe the matter? Now let us talk about who is on the list. The database includes a number of top journalists at big media houses like the Hindustan Times, India Today Network, Network 18, The Hindu and the Indian Express. According to the report, the time period in which these numbers were added to the target list coincided with some of these breaking stories that somehow decided the political narrative of the time. For example, journalist Rohini Singh's number appears after she filed back-to-back reports on the business affairs of Home Minister Amit Shah's son, Jai Shah, and Nikhil Merchant, who is a businessman close to Prime Minister Modi. The number of former Indian Express journalist Sushant Singh appears on the list in mid-2018 at a time when he was working on the investigation into the controversial Rafale aircraft deal with France. The list also includes HT Executive Editor Shishir Gupta, Editorial Page Editor and former Bureau Chief Prashant Jha, Defense Correspondent Rahul Singh, former political reporter who covered the Congress, Aurangzeb Naqshbandi, Ritika Chopra, who covers Education and Election Commission for the Indian Express, Muzammil Jalil, who writes on Kashmir of the Indian Express, Sandeep Unnithan, who covers defense and the Indian military for India Today, Manoj Gupta, who is editor of Investigation and Security Affairs at TV18, and Vijayta Singh, who covers the Home Ministry for The Hindu. The Wire's founding editors Siddharth Varadarajan and M.K. Venu are also on the list. Apart from these, Swati Chaturvedi, who wrote a book called I Am a Troll on BJP's sprawling IT cell, also appears on the list. Now let us talk about the opposition leaders and ministers from the Modi cabinet itself who appear on the list. The latest report reveals that contact number of Rahul Gandhi during the period when he was the president of the party was a target too. Although these numbers are not used by him now, if an Indian opposition leader on the snooping list is not alarming enough, you should also know that 5 people from his close circle, including his friends and acquaintances who are not in public life, are also on the snooping list. However, the biggest irony of this all is this. When the monsoon session began today, the new IT minister defended the government, saying that it could not be a coincidence that the report comes just before the session began. Ashwini Vaishnav, he rejected the report and said there is no substance in it. He called it sensational story and over-the-top allegations. In his 6-minute-long speech, he defended the government and refused to acknowledge that this is something concerning serious breach of fundamental rights of Indian citizens. However, hours later, it was revealed that among the 2 from the Modi government who are on the snooping list, he is also the one. Another being Prahlad Patel. Now let us talk about the other names that appear on the list. In another article published by Washington Post on similar issue, the name of Ashok Lavasa cropped up. Now, if you remember, Ashok Lavasa was former election commissioner who had given a dissenting opinion on the controversial 2019 election commission decision to absolve Prime Minister Modi of all the charges of poll code violations. Another person who was successfully targeted with Pegasus software was Prashant Kishore, political strategist who recently helped Mamata Banerjee defeat BJP in West Bengal election. Interestingly enough, according to the report, Kishore's phone was compromised as recently as July 14th. The most shocking number, or in fact numbers in the entire list, is of the victim who had accused former CJI Ranjan Gogoi of sexual harassment. The woman was dismissed from her job then, and then CJI presided over his own case and declared himself not guilty. Recently, the woman was reinstated on her job. The report claims in the period when she went public with the allegations, at least 11 phone numbers used by the woman, her husband and 2 other family members were also on the list for snooping. Mr. Gogoi, as we all know, is now a Rajya Sabha MP. Now let us talk about the most important issue at hand, which is the surveillance in India. As the IT minister said, illegal surveillance is not possible in India. This is because there are 2 laws that govern the communication surveillance. The Indian Telegraph Act 1885, which deals with interception of calls, and the Information Technology Act 2000, which deals with interception of data. Now, under both the laws, only the government, under certain circumstances, is permitted to conduct surveillance and not the private actors. Moreover, hacking is expressly prohibited under the IT Act. Also, the orders on interception of communication can only be issued by the Secretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs. So, if private citizens are being snooped upon and the government is not ready to accept the responsibility, the question that arises is, could it be private firms? But both the NSO response and even the laws in India clearly point to the possibility where the involvement of private firms seems less likely. Then why isn't the government probing the matter? It's a big question. Now let us talk about the concept of liberty, privacy, and the state. A thing about being born in a democratic country is that you possess certain fundamental rights. Liberty and privacy are among them. In fact, they are two sides of the same coin. In 2017, when the Supreme Court first declared that right to privacy is a part of a fundamental right, it was also an assertion that it is an integral part of the right to life and liberty. Essentially, if you are a living, breathing human in this democratic India, your privacy and your liberty are a part of your life. So when the state starts snooping on you, starts to listen to your private conversations, a part of your life that you hold so dear is breached. The people who were target of the surveillance, the journalist, the opposition, the activist, they were on the list maybe because of their profession. But outside that profession, they are also humans. They are sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, and countless other roles that they carry out as humans. They interact with each other, they interact with other humans outside that sphere. And when they are targeted for surveillance, the privacy of the conversation, the security and trust with which they communicate with others is gone. A father talking to his son about his vulnerability, or a mother talking to her daughters about her passions, a son or daughter reassuring his or her parents, a private conversation with one's partner, all these are meant to be private. That is the sanctity of the communication. When they are put under surveillance, you take away their right to maintain the sanctity of these conversations and these communications. In a democracy, the role of the government is to provide a safe environment for the citizens. The country is our home, and one should not feel unsafe to have private conversations here. What's my choice of my partner? What do I choose to eat inside my house? What I choose to talk about? And in what manner with my friends, relatives, family members should not be the subject to state surveillance and thereby state scrutiny. Of course, there are restrictions on right to privacy as well, but those are limited to acts that could potentially harm India's national interest. The spyware, as per the company, was developed to intercept communication of the terrorist. Why is it being used to invade the privacy of Indian citizens? Why is it not a big enough concern for the Modi government? If it is not involved, why not order inquiry into the matter? There are many questions, but does the government have satisfactory answers? Do let us know what you think about this in the comment box below. For more news and updates, you can log on to www.hwnews.in. Also, if you like the video, do not forget to hit the subscribe button. Also like the video, comment below it. And if you are watching this video on Facebook, please do like our page and share this video to as many people as possible. Thank you so much.